how to be profitable in 2024.
Marketing has really changed.
That there is a path to a career within our practices.
Change your website geared more towards them.
The multi-generational communication conflicts.
People aren't coming to you because you're an in-network provider. They're coming to you because they want a beautiful smile.
This is truly what's on the mind of orthodontists.
You know, having that high level of service.
This day and age, it's all about differentiating yourself.
So happy to be here.
Hey, Tracy, thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Davin.
Oh, I'm so excited to hear what you have to say about these topics.
Oh, I'm very excited to find out exactly what these topics are and what I'm going to say about them.
All right. Well, so what would you say is on the mind of every orthodontist that they don't have a solution for?
Currently for 2024, I would say what's on their mind is how to be profitable in 2024. It's a bit of a different year, and it's definitely different than 2023. So what they were doing in 2023 is not working for them currently in 2024. So they're looking at how to be profitable. And that's usually centered around what expenses can I kind of pull back on, and what fees can I increase? Where can I save? It's a lot of focus on the P&L.
Oh, I love that. That is a great insight. So a big proponent of the solution and the problem are sort of linked usually. And so in that vein, how can practices lean into that obstacle of trying to be profitable in 2024 and it looking different than 2023? How can they lean into that to actually help find a solution?
Okay, so I think it circles back to that P&L, right? And looking at that and saying, okay, where, it's inevitable that you look at your P&L, which I would say most doctors don't truthfully look at that in detail on a monthly basis. Most business owners don't, to be honest with you. We're so focused on what's coming in, and we're not really focusing on what's also going out. And the area where we find the most success is when we look at those and we surprise ourselves with how long that list has gotten. And we can recognize that there's actually quite a few, especially in ortho, there are quite a few of the vendors that we work with that actually offer more services than the main service that we got them for, right? Like, I will go ahead and just throw you right on in there. Look at all that marketing that you offer that I don't think everybody knows that WildSmiles offers. So they may come to you guys for the brackets, but have they fully utilized all of that extra marketing that you guys offer too? That's a great example. And you see that actually in many of our vendor friends. So I would highly suggest looking at that P&L and then looking through each of those vendors, and then just call them and have a quick catch up on updates of what else they offered, so that you can see, is there anything I can scale back on or change out, or what am I not using? There's so many things on there that they're not even using. So
that's really great insight. And I do think that so many of the vendors that support the practice are underutilized. So I think that's a great point. So as they're looking through the P&L, how would you suggest that they discriminate as they look through? Because just because it's an expensive line item doesn't necessarily mean that it's a line item that they need to get rid of. But how would you suggest they evaluate that?
I think that they should hook up with a consultant. I think that could be good. But if they're doing it themselves, I think it just goes back to just looking through, like, what is the value that this one brings me? What is the value? Don't look at the number, look at the value that it brings you. And does it bring me back to my highest best use in this business? We want to make sure that our doctors, and not just our doctors, but every single type of coordinator within our ranks, that every single employee is always being optimized in their highest best use. What is the one thing that they can do, or the things that only that they can do within the business, and making sure that they are doing that as much as possible. Sure, they can do other things. They're fully willing to do other things, but how do we make sure that they're in their highest best use? And then what added resources, partnerships do we need outside of that to help enhance that?
I think that's really great insight. And I think it's something that the doctors or the office managers in the practice could really do well to do some of this here kind of as we enter into the second quarter.
Yes. And this second quarter is a great time to do this, right? Don't wait till third quarter or fourth quarter and looking back and going, oh, I should have, I wish I should have, like, oh, I could have done better that quarter. Let's make money now.
That's awesome. I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that. So Tracy, if someone's listening to this and they're like, this Tracy gal is pretty interesting. I would like to learn more. Where would they find you? And tell us a little bit about you and who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So I'm Tracy Martin. I started a consulting firm called Straight Consulting, and we are in our 9th year now. We have a small team of what I call Avengers, and my Avengers, Eric and Alicia and Gustavo, go out to practices just as much as I do, and each have their own unique superpower, I would say. And I'm Captain America, even though I look like Black Widow for my Avenger team. And just depending on what that practice needs depends on which one you work with or how often you work with that Avenger. That said, we do a lot of lectures. We're on the speaker circuit, and we focus on redesigning traditional ortho processes for millennials and Gen Z. We are made up of a team of Gen Z to Gen Xers. And so each of those generations bring their own perspective and their own twist and their own buying habits. And at the same time, all of us have grown up in orthodontics. So we speak fluently both our generational buying habits and what's been traditional in ortho. What are our norms? Like, why do we practice the way that we practice? And today's orthodontics is so different than it was for Gen X. And it takes some practices longer than others to, adapt to that. So, whether you love millennials or not, that's who you're selling your orthodontics to. So we might as well know everything we can and transition our services to make sure that we are meeting those needs and, maximizing like our growth and our profits. So we focus on that. But where you can find us, you can easily find us at our website, straightconsulting.com, of course, but we're on all of the social channels as well. We're at most conferences, whether lecturing or sponsoring, and we'll be at AAO, and we'll be at all of the events throughout the year. So easy to find us.
I love it. Well, and I can just speak from personal experience. I love the way that you bring this approach to the millennial experience in orthodontics and what their buying habits are. And I know that I've even been able to bounce a couple ideas off of you, and it's been really great. So I love that approach and the way that you think about it.
Thanks. I'm happy to help. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so to finish up, and by the way, I cannot wait. People who've been listening to this know that at the end, we kind of ask this little fun question that nobody knows beforehand. I cannot wait to ask you that. So just a little teaser there. I can't wait. But before we get to that, we've got a couple more questions that we want to get your thoughts on. We've been kind of focusing on the maybe a specific problem, right, that a practice is having. How can we kind of step back and look at the practice as it sits in the overall industry? And with that in mind, where are practices and the overall industry really vulnerable, in your opinion?
Oh, that's a lovely question, because so when I partner with a practice, I always start the first month that I partner with them, and I only partner with them for 6 months. I won't do a 12-month engagement. I'm not good at long-term relationships, and I just know that about myself. So we'll keep it down to the 6. But that said, the first month that we partner with a practice, we always do a really in-depth, deep SWOT analysis on them, right? And so that way we could see, how are we currently performing? What is working for us? What might not be working for us? And so if I look at like kind of just what has been trending in those, those weak spots, I would say a lot of it centers around roles and responsibilities with our team members, things just kind of getting messy, post COVID, they've had such a hard time with staffing and keeping staffing, right? Like keeping their teams as is. And if I, asked a doctor, what is like the one thing I could if I could wave a magic wand, what would it be? It'd be like that my team would all stay the same team for the next 10 years. And I'd say, good luck, because that's not going to happen. Give up that dream now, because that's not how Gen Z is going to work at all. And millennials too. But there is so much value, and there's a lot of wins to be had in a really strongly well-designed, well-defined org chart, and being able to showcase the professional growth that can happen for the team members. In that, it's been a win-win for both the doctors and the team. So that, coupled with really great onboarding systems, so that way, as these people change out, we have just an easier way to onboard. We do a lot of video training and stuff, and that has been phenomenal, because you're not going to be able to retain everybody. So you might as well just lean in hard to making onboarding an easy thing, so that way they can just kind of change in and out. But then really developing your leadership teams and getting them the training and, sending them to courses and conferences and, really like loving hard on those people, because those people will help keep your team together in the long term and actually advance your growth.
I think it's interesting that you say that about the teams, because for so long, orthodontists were really used to being able to have a team that stayed there for a long time. And so this idea of just having an onboarding program even.
Yeah. They don't have it. They're not equipped. They don't have it. I'll say like some good ones have some strong manuals, right? And can say, here's your job description. Here's what we expect of you. We have protocols set out for this role, and here's your manual for it. And that's awesome, except for the fact that Gen Z completely shuts down to a block of text. So that manual is not going to get read.
Right.
That's not how they learn. This is why TikTok is amazing, right? This is why YouTube is amazing. I live by the University of YouTube. I live by the University of TikTok. So you got to take that manual and then you got to make it all video, and then you have a better shot. So there's not a lot of practices who are set up for that revolving door. So you got to figure out how to make it an easier win-win for both sides.
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that side of it, because I think that's really insightful. Second to last question here. We just talked about the vulnerabilities. So now, where are practices and the overall industry well positioned for success?
We're set up for success because we are, working with the most narcissistic generation there has ever been, where millennials are the people who came up with the selfie, So inevitably, orthodontics is always going to be something that is, expected by both millennials and Gen Z. So because you can ask a Gen Xer and they'll say, that the thought of braces was something that was still somewhat optional. But for a millennial, it's not an option. Like, we know that at some point we're going to buy our kids braces, we're going to buy our kids a car, and we're going to be asked about college. Now, whether or not we have money for college at that point is a whole nother story. But we're going to be asked for those things from our kids. And Gen Z also will expect to have orthodontics. It's just part of life. So we're always going to be needed, and that's a wonderful thing. On top of that, millennials are also the first group that we will have had that, like, the majority of them have had orthodontics before. So they're going to be needing a lot of limited treatment, fixing some shifting that has happened, that kind of thing. So there's a lot of business to be had from these two upcoming generations. So I think if you can really dial in and truly redesign your new patient onboarding system for these two generations, you can capitalize really, really well. But if you try to do life with policies and procedures that were set up for Gen X, you will not.
I love it. Well, we'll have to have another conversation about what that maybe even looks like. So we've talked about a lot of things, and I really think that you're kind of the expert in the industry on millennials. I mean, you talk about it a lot. You're great at a lot of things, but I think that's where you really bring out a lot of your expertise. And I mean, you say this all the time, right? You are a millennial mom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yep.
With that in mind, if someone's listening to this, what are like 1 to 3, I can implement this tomorrow takeaways that you would say?
Okay, quick takeaways. 1, completely refresh your website. I know that sounds like a big deal, a big thing. It doesn't have to be a big deal, a big thing. We're happy to partner with you to review your website and give you exactly what you need to go to your digital marketing company with to make changes to. So your website is like your driver's license. Your online presence is like your driver's license, or it's like your identity to these generations. There's no world where they're ever going to come into your practice without having done some pre-search on your website. And the right content does have to be there. And so that goes into number 2, which is you put your prices on your website. Be price transparent. Confidence is sexy. It's attractive. And you want to attract as many millennial moms as possible, or just millennials in general. Be confident, be sexy, and put your prices on your website. That's got to be on there too. And we are not a digital marketing company. I'm just giving you sales strategies because I want you to make as much money as you possibly can. So that's another big one. And then culture is king right now. So what's on your website has to translate into the practice. You can't just pay for a super sexy website and then I come in and I have to jump through hurdles to get what I want, right? So like implementing smile assessments and things that can quickly give me the information I need or I want to get to the end result that I want faster is important. So looking for little strategies like that. But I'll give you an example. Even this week, I was just in a practice, and I'm not going to name any names, but I was just in a practice where their new patients call and the front office team will not schedule their appointment, their consultation appointment, until they fill out their forms. Now, luckily the forms are mobile friendly, so kudos there. I appreciate that piece. But I'm not going to do any homework. Like, practices are wondering, why won't these people do their paperwork before they come in for the event, for the appointment? Like, no matter what we do, how many times we remind them, they're not doing the forms before they come in. And that's because we are not going to do homework before we come in for the consultation. I have from 10 to 11 booked with your practice, and I will not think about you until I get there. And when I get there, you will have my full attention. I'll give you all of me, and I will give you my credit card that I have ready for you. But I will not have cash. I will not have a check. So this idea of like charging extra, or like you get a bigger discount if you have a check, like, no, I'm not gonna have a check. Take Venmo maybe. And there just won't be any pre-work. I'm not gonna do my forms ahead of time. So looking for ways to make sure that your new patient experience matches what's being promised on that website, and that same feeling, that patient experience is going to be huge. So
I love it. I mean, if those listening do even just one of those three things, I think could make a huge difference. I have really appreciated this conversation, and I always enjoy hearing your take on things. And I'm sure that everybody listening has as well. Before we close up, one final question, and this is a fun one. So I can't wait to ask you this and hear what you have to say. So I'm a big believer in story, and that we are integrating ourselves into the story of our clients, and our practices are integrating, hopefully, themselves into the story of, their consumer. And there's a lot of things involved with that. But two things that make a really great story is a really good villain and a good hero. So who or what is your favorite villain, and who or what is your favorite hero?
Yeah, let's just go with first ones that pop into mind. Okay, so hero is going to be, I guess, Black Widow. I mean, like, she's a superhero that I dress up as pretty often for Halloween, and I think she's amazing. I think she's awesome. It's one of my favorite movies ever.
I love it.
So definitely hero probably would be her. And then, okay, villain, my favorite villain. I don't think I have a favorite villain. I don't like villains. Villains are bad.
Everybody is having a hard time with the villains. I will give you that, but I do think you can't.
Okay, let's pick Thanos, because Thanos is terrible, and he's just, collecting each jewel, and, he tried to kill my girl. And so we're going to make Thanos the villain. Like,
there you go.
Yeah.
I love it.
There we go.
I love it. Well, thank you for sharing that. I love it. It's a fun question.
That is a fun one. I'm gonna have to prepare that better. I don't know. In my head, I was thinking you're gonna ask me something like, "What's my greatest fear?" or something, but I did not think about hero and villain. So
that's too typical.
Good catch.
That's too
Good
typical. One. Well, Tracy, thank you for spending time with us and sharing all of your insight. And I really appreciate it. And I know everybody listening does as well.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. This is so fun.
Oh, it was great. We'll have to do it again.
I'm down. Sign me up.